All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm teacher Nathan from Writers at Work, and this afternoon we'll take a look at the O Level 2019 Paper 2. Now, I believe most of you have access to the necessary resources that will give you the answers. As such, the goal of me going through the paper this morning for our visual stimulus and narrative text is more for you to pick up some skills needed to ace your O level examinations. All right. So I will not be I'll still give you the answers. That will not be my main focus, but I'll be sharing with you the tips and tricks. So please stop me if you have any questions along the way. All right. So let's start. The visual text that we are looking at is on this web page. And like what I've always emphasized, the synopsis will give you a lot of useful information, or rather, it prepares you for what to expect. So over here, they tell you there is a web page. So from this starting synopsis, you really can have a rough idea who your target audience will be. This target audience would rather be limited because you need to search up that web page first before this thing pops up. It's different from your normal posters. If you put it on the MRT station or at your HDB void deck, a lot of people walk past and can see. So this would more or less shape the kind of people this web page is targeting. If you look down further, you realize that the next, after you look at the synopsis, the next step actually is to identify what is the big idea of this whole visual stimulus. There will always be that one or two lines that capture this information for you. And after that, pick up the secondary ideas which are linked to your big idea. Okay? So if I have to look here, the big idea is on this thing. The creator of this website wants people to join them to watch new movies and to make movies. Okay, so after reading the whole text, I identified this as my main idea, and you can see that there are two secondary ideas here. They tell you the benefits of joining Cine Club. So this is your secondary idea number one. And they also share with you about this internship or volunteer scheme here, which will be my second secondary idea. Along with it, you can observe that there is this picture here, which is trying to show you some of the benefit that is mentioned here, which is basically number one, going to the screenings. It will look something like that. And for the second picture here, okay, you can see it's related to the volunteer scheme and how you actually can help the manager run the box office or the movie screening itself. Okay, so after you have identified this as your secondary ideas, then you slowly read the details of what this whole poster is about. I'll not go into the nitty gritty and bore you down with all the details because I believe you can read it on screen, or if you have the 10-year series with you, you probably have access to this information as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do is bring you through the questions and tell you the tips and tricks, the steps needed to identify certain keywords. Okay. So the first question say, looking at the heading Cine Club, what are two separate words to support the website's claim that it keeps the members up to date? So this is the main thing. Up to date, the meaning is you are you are staying tuned to the latest trends. So you are somebody who is like always updated to the new stuff. Okay. Now, when you have this kind of question where they ask you to quote some words or quote a phrase, a sentence, etc., the important thing is to ask yourself, how is this word or this phrase linked to my main idea of the question of being up to date? Some kind of vocabulary phrases need to pop up in your mind. So up to date could mean latest, could mean newest, up and coming. Some of these words need to come to your mind so that when you search the text, all right, you will be very clear on what to look out for. You can see over here, as what we are saying, latest, make new movies, and there you have your answer. Okay. Now you can see the next question asks you to look at the member benefit section and the two benefits of membership here. So it's really clear cut that you can see this is this looks like some movie screening, and therefore it will link to this part. Next, you can see over here this picture shows the manager teaching the student or the intern how to use the filming equipment. Right, so actually this could be part of the make a movie workshop which takes place every month. Okay, so you can see this picture goes both ways. It's either it could be part of this section, the members benefit here, or it could be looking at how you run the box office. Okay, so the interpretation, there isn't any right or wrong, but it's how the question wants to test you on it, that you need to align yourself to that kind of ideas, right? So going back to the questions, where's my question? Okay. So the first idea would be being able to come to the screenings of the latest releases shown in the two state of the art cinemas. And the second one is being offered before non-members the chance to join the make a movie workshop which takes place every month. Okay, so these are very straightforward questions that that you can refer directly to the text to help you. Now you can see the last one about the volunteer scheme is also another giveaway question. They just ask you how much time and it's really 1 mark. So all these I'll say are not really very difficult questions. If you read closely, they tell you that you just need to commit at least 2 days a month. And that will be your answer. Okay. So I'll not write the whole thing out. I'll just show you and I'll just write it here for everyone to see. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the last question. Which sentence gives the overall purpose of the web page? So this is what I was talking about initially. What is your big idea? Right? So you can tell that the big idea is here. A chance to watch the latest release, make movies, etc. But the purpose need to have an action behind it. So while this is the main idea, is they want you to enjoy these benefits, but the main purpose is actually for you to join the club. Okay, so here this is the thing that we need to take note. All you have to do is to join our club. So you can see the main idea and the purpose, they are related. But if the question asks you for a purpose, the idea of uh, action needs to be there. While your main idea of your poster may not have this action. All right. So they ask you for the purpose, the overall purpose. It will be the sentence. All you have to do is join our club. And there you have it. That's our what do you call that? That's our overall purpose of the web page. I'll say that this situational writing here sorry, not situational writing, visual stimulus here is one of the more straightforward kind for O-level papers. But that being said, I'll say that the syllabus has changed. So with regards to this, I think the students then had it easier because it's just the pictorial form. But nowadays there is the second text, which is a short write up, which you will need to link to your picture. So I'll say that the barriers or entry or being able to score high marks for visual stimulus has definitely increased. But that being said, I think the skills needed still remain the same. The idea is for you to identify the uh, main purpose, the big ideas, and the secondary ideas accordingly, and then answer the questions according to what they have asked you on. All right. So till then, when we explore the later papers, I can give you a better understanding, and I tell you how I appreciate the situation then. All right. But for now, let's just look at this visual text and take it like a stepping stone for more challenging ones to come. Okay, I'll just leave this here for a few more moments. And if you have questions regarding visual text, do feel free to ask me in the chat section. All right. There are no further questions. Let's take a look at our paper two. What's this called? Yes, the narrative text. Okay. This text is, I would say, is not very difficult to understand. It's just that some of the questions are more challenging. Okay. So looking at this synopsis here, it doesn't tell us much actually. It just tell you that there are two people in the house. It's like it doesn't prepare you for what is to come. Okay, so nevertheless, if the synopsis isn't really helpful, then you just have to read on. Okay, this whole text is revolves around Kasim and Alice. I'm not going to read it out to you. This is not a reading session, but I'd just like to draw your attention to certain noteworthy points from the text itself. Okay, so the first one is here. You can hear that from this line 5 onwards, all the way, there is this emphasis on sounds. So they talk about the fading hum of the taxi was the only sound in the still afternoon. The hum is like your engine noise, okay? After that, you can talk about the murmuring of the water in the stream. You can see this is actually a personification, because murmuring is like somebody talking in a very low voice. Then you see there is the whisper of tiny movements in the hedgerow. So whisper is also a human attribute, but you're looking at the animals and plants trying to whisper. Okay, so for those of you who are unaware, whisper means you speak softly using one's breath. And murmuring here means a low, indistinct, continuous sound. So it's like in your school hall when everybody try to quiet down, then you can hear the low drone of people's voice ongoing. Yeah, that's called murmuring. Now, after the author describes that situation to you, we observe that Alice and Kasim are trying to open the door of the house. So you can see here that Alice tried to put a show of amusement, which demonstrates to us that she trying to find something funny. So she's trying to laugh at herself for being blur or absent-minded. And after Alice could not find the key, you observe that the author describes the actions of Kasim, who is like Alice's boyfriend, and he doesn't actually tell you how Kasim feels. He just show you that he walked away and he didn't say anything. So all this shows something about Kasim. So probably Kasim didn't really bother about Alice losing or unable to find her key. So you could say that he's indifferent. Okay, so I think when you read the text, it's not so much about just reading word for word and that's all, but rather you need to ask yourself, so what's the feeling of the character? What are they doing now? That kind of situational awareness will aid you when you answer your questions later. Okay. Next, we observe in text 3 here that she recalled that uh, she offered to host Kasim in this countryside house, but she didn't expect him to take her up on it. That means uh, she didn't expect Kasim to actually agree to visit the countryside house. So this surprised Alice actually. Next, you observe that she wished that Kasi wouldn't come, so she doesn't have to open up the house and host him, and that she could also sleep. Here it's also stated. Next, you observe that here there's this word called flattered. Flattered here means insincere praise. Okay. Now you could see that after we talk about Alice and Kasim, then they talk about how they found the car. They found another car in nearby, and Alice recognized that it was her sister Harriet's car, and she even after that then she realized that Harriet parked her car and just went off for a walk. So you can see here, she never forgotten anything in her life. She arrived here, left the car, and went straight for a walk without a care of the world. So you could see the language here actually conveys certain emotions of Alice. So as we read, we need to ask ourselves, how are the characters feeling and how are the emotions changing over time? Because this will affect the kind of description we will give for their mood, their tone of speech, etc. All right. So we could say that she was exasperated over here. That means she's like very, very, very annoyed. However, you could see that after Harriet came back, right, and she also saw her brother, right? She smiled delightedly. So this already tells you that she's happy to see him. And you could also see that she linked up her arm through his and they walked towards the house, followed by Kasim and the children. So you could see that eventually they were just satisfied that she could enter the house and there was a family gathering ongoing. All right. So I would say this text isn't really difficult to understand, but that's where the problem lies because the text is easy to understand. This means that the questions may be more challenging. Right, okay, so let's take a look at some of the questions they ask. At the beginning of the text, Alice arrives at her family house. So we are supposed to give three ideas to talk about the sights and the sounds that she could hear, right? So if we observe earlier, I pointed out the sounds, the different sounds to you. So your three quotations would be here. The fading out of the taxi was the only sound in the still afternoon. That's one. The other one is here, murmuring of the water in the stream that ran to the back of the garden. Then the last one is here, the whisper of tiny movements in the hedgerows and grasses. All right. So the next question is, how do we elaborate on this? You see, that's where the challenge lies because we don't really elaborate on like murmuring or whispering. So what are we supposed to infer? You know, that's the question most of my students ask. So the idea is you need to talk about the sound. So we need to link back to the sound. So I feel that the Cambridge examiner is looking out for words to describe the intensity of the sound. Is it a very loud sound? Very soft? You need to explain this point clearly to them. So let's say we look at the first one first. Fading hum of the taxi. Okay, I'll just put dot 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 because it's just purely copying in the still afternoon. All right, so this actually suggests the sound it suggests the surroundings was so quiet that even the taxi's engine noises were amplified. Okay, so when you use the word hum is a very soft sound. You know, it's that kind of sound when you hear it when you are sitting in the car. But we are saying that because it's so quiet, you can actually hear this engine noise so clearly, and that actually tells you about two things: the surrounding noise, as well as how the engine noises became amplified as a result. And you can see all this actually links back to my point on sounds. And that's how we use this whole, how we describe it. Next, you look at the murmuring of the water. Now, so it suggests that the surroundings was close. The surrounding was near nature or close to nature, and very serene. That means very peaceful, very quiet, such that the low, indistinct sound of water flowing could be heard. Okay, so that's the second part. We need to explain the word murmuring, which is here, the low indistinct sound. So indistinct means it's not something that is it's not a sound that like you will listen intently to. It's like those kind of background sound you will hear in a very crowded place, right? But the idea is because the place was so quiet that even this indistinct murmuring sound became like the main sound, right? Lastly, we will talk about the whisper of tiny movement of the animals. In the it's called hedge growth. Okay, it implies there were small animals present, and their movement could be heard distinctly through the stillness of the afternoon. Yeah, and that will be our answer for question 1. So you can see all my answers actually link back to sounds. So the two ideas we need to bring forth is that it's so quiet, and because it's so quiet, the second point is my peripheral sounds become so amplified. The taxi driving off, the animals doing their movement in the bushes, the water flowing down also become the main noise. And I need to bring this out very clearly to the examiner. Okay? Next, Looking at question 6a now. Which of the phrase in paragraph 2 suggests Alice was trying to hide her feelings about forgetting the key? So you see, we are looking at the phrase, so this is show not tell. So I'm not telling you that Alice forget, I'm just telling you that I just want to use some vocabulary to show you this. So you look back at our text here. I pointed out earlier that she tried to put on a show of amusement at her absent-mindedness. So you need to ask yourself, what is this absent-mindedness? This absent-mindedness here is referring to her forgetting the keys. And how did she hide her feelings about it? She tried to think that it's funny, try to change the situation around. Okay? So the idea is here, the phrase is here, show of amusement. Next, 6b asks, what are two things that made Alice think she was shriveled? So the meaning of shriveled here means that she was reduced to helplessness. Okay, and in Kasim's opinion, so we are looking at the actions that Kasim did. And because Alice observed these actions, she felt really bad and she felt that she was useless or she could not do anything to make the situation better. So if you go back to the passage again, you observe that Kasim she was famously hopeless. So you can see she was shriveled, she was hopeless, she could not do anything. And what did Kasim do? He walked away from her and she now said he didn't say anything. And you observe the next line, she said that she thought this mishap with the keys had shriveled her, in his opinion. So Kasim's behavior is due to Alice's forgetfulness, you can see from here. As such, our answer would be the two things that Kasim did was he walked away from her, he did not say anything. You can add on by saying he walked away from her to where? Around the house. All right, there we go. Now moving on, let's take a look at question 7 now. They were in the countryside in the middle of nowhere. With no way back, the house was set behind a cluster of houses on a no-through road where there was no cafe, pub, or shop where they could pass the time. What does the writer do to emphasize they were in the middle of nowhere? So you can see when you want to emphasize something, we are always looking at the use of language. Okay, so you need to look closely at these few sentences, the few lines here, and ask yourself, so what is happening? So as we observe, the author actually describes where the house was, where the log house was. Okay, and he was trying to highlight that there was no way out for Alice and the rest of them. So our answer could be that the writer emphasizes the location of the house by stating that it was not near any amenities. Yeah, and then we have it, our answer. Moving on. Why was being in the middle of nowhere difficult for Alice? And if you look back at the text, it said there was nowhere they could pass time. So it's not because they had nowhere to pass time that it was difficult, actually. Because if you read between the lines, you will observe that Kasim was the problem. You can see here because Kasim just walked away when Alice could not find the key. So she could tell that probably Kasim was angry or irritated by Alice's forgetfulness. So in the sense, we are interested in how Alice has to like entertain or make Kasim feel better, and that was difficult for him. So why was being the nowhere difficult for Alice? It was because there were no amenities nearby where Kasim and her could wait. Hence, she felt bad that she was wasting Kasim's time. Okay, so that's the main idea. Now, just give everyone some time to take in the information here before we move on to the next few questions. All right, if there are no further questions, let's take a look at this question 7. According to paragraph 3, before they came, what did Kasim do is surprise Alice. So when we talk about surprise, we need to have some vocab that describes that kind of shock. All right. So let's take a look further up. Over here, if you observe, I pointed out to you that she hadn't really expected him to take it up on her and had been flattered if he did. So you can see, she hadn't offering this place for a short break had been a careless suggestion, and she expected Kasim to say no, but actually Kasim wanted to go to the house for a short break, and that surprised Alice because she did not expect it. So you must see something that is unexpected, right? So the answer will be Kasim accepted Alice's offer of taking a short break at the house. Okay. Now moving on. Give 2 reasons why Alice wished Kasim was not there. Okay, so you're just giving two explanations. But the problem is you need to answer in your own words. So the main idea is to change the verbs. So let's take a look at why Alice didn't want Kasim to be present. Over here, if she had been alone, the keys wouldn't have mattered. It would be kind of bliss because she doesn't need to open up the house and make it ready for others, and she could drop on the grass and sleep. So let's identify some of the words that we need to change. You can see the first one is shut out. Responsibility, opening up the house and making it ready for others. She could drop onto the grass and doze in the warmth of the sunshine. So you can see these are some of the words that we need to paraphrase. Then the next question is, how do we paraphrase? Well, if you have the direct synonym, then it's very easy. Shut out from the responsive. Shut out, that means you could say she could avoid the, instead of responsibility, you can say the duty of opening up the house and making it ready could mean you're trying to prepare the house. She could have dropped onto the grass and dozed in the sun. So you could just say she could take a nap in the hot sun, under the hot sun. Okay? So it's these kind of things that we'll need to change. So let's write it nicely in our answer booklet. The two reasons, firstly, Alice could have avoided the duty of preparing the house for Kasim. And the next one is Alice could take a nap under the hot sun while waiting for her sister. Okay, so these are the two things that Alice wished she could do without Kasim around. Okay, moving on. Let's take a look at question 9. It describes the car that was near the house, right? There's a box with maps on near the back seat. Next to it, folded newspapers and a pair of shoes. I think the key word that we need to remember is here: placed neatly side by side, and one street sock tucked into the top of each. So there is some kind of order involved in how you place the items. Okay? And now you can see the next question actually asks you what kind of person Harriet was. So we are trying to infer the the kind of behavior or the kind of qualities Harriet possessed. So we will say that either she was neat or she was meticulous. That means she is very detail oriented to how to place the items, like this kind of things. Okay. Next, the question 10 asks you why Alice was exasperated with Harriet. And they ask you why. So we are looking for a reason here. All right. Now let's go back to the text and find this part where she was exasperated. You will see here. That's Harriet's car, and I know exactly what she's done. She said exasperatedly. So we are looking at a nearby area here. Perhaps she forgotten her keys too. Harriet's so basically this could be what Kasim said. Okay, this is Alice. Then Alice continued by saying, Alice, Harriet's never forgotten anything in her life. She arrived here, left the car, and went straight off for a walk without a care for the world. So you can see when she said something exasperatedly, that means she is very irritated or annoyed by Harriet. And what is she annoyed about? So Cassie is trying to guess that she forgot her keys and Alice was just angry with Harriet. But no, she said that Alice went on to say that Harriet never forget anything in her life, which means that probably she's a very careful person. But she went straight for a walk without a care for the world. So the idea is the annoyance is here, without a care for the world. What she care? What must she care about? Opening the house. So the idea that we need to bring about here is that she was exasperated because she went out for the house. She went out for a walk without preparing the house or opening it up for her when Alice herself forgotten the key. So our answer will be as such. Alice was exasperated as Harriet had arrived earlier than her, but she went off for a walk without bothering to open up and prepare the house. Okay. Now, you can see, let's look at question 11 now. In paragraph 6, Alice's brother says, although of course it's very unlikely that either of my sisters would be stupid enough to forget her own. And we're looking at the tone of the brother. The tone here we are looking at is the quality of voice that expresses or shows a speaker's feelings or thoughts. So in most cases, we'll look at things like uh, disgust. That means the writer doesn't support what is happening, or it could be condescending tone. That means you look down on the person, or it can be optimistic tone. That means you are hopeful something will happen. So you could see that the brother here was joking that uh, that uh, that that her sisters weren't open and close stupid enough to forget their keys, right? So and you can see that Alice actually forgotten her keys. So you could actually say that her brother is sarcastic, or simpler it can be he's very playful. So we really say it's very unlikely that either of my sisters, that means one of my sisters, will be stupid enough to forget her own. So he's trying to emphasize the fact that he did not expect the sister to be forgetful. But in actual fact, the sisters, Alice was. So the expectation versus reality difference is where we use a sarcastic or a tone that shows that he's laughing at Alice's forgetfulness. All right. Okay, moving on. Let's take a look at question 12 now. From paragraph 6, which two things did Alice do showed that she was happy to see her brother? So once again, this question is also talking about a show not tell situation. So we are looking at certain behavioral characteristics that when you read and think about it, will tell you that Alice was happy to see her brother. Okay? Because there are many of these kind of not so direct questions, that is why when you read the text, you need to ask yourself how are the characters feeling, what's their intent or their agenda when doing certain things. Because this is where it will trigger that thinking and would help you answer questions like question 12. All right. So moving back to our text, we see that at the end, the another car came up with the drive and stop, and he recognized his brother's car. So you see, the first thing is she smiled delightfully and went to greet them. Uh, After that, then laughing, he linked up her arm through his, and they walked towards the house, followed by Kasim. So these two actions already show that Alice was excited, and she's just happy that the family gathering could start because her brother brought the keys, right? As such, let's let's write this in for our question. Okay, so the first thing that Alice did was Alice smiled delightfully at at her brother. Next, Alice linked up her arm through his. And they walked towards the house together. Okay, so this is the second part. Okay, I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information I've shared. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask. Okay. The comprehension lesson is kind of heavy, so I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information first. After that, then we will move on to our final question. Okay, let's take a look at our comprehension question 13. Now, this question, I'll say there are students who always get full marks for it, and there are people who struggle at it. The main skill that you need to know is to take away the main idea from every paragraph. So how do you know what's the main idea? Usually is that one sentence embedded somewhere in the paragraph. Well, if you are smart, you will take a look at the first and the last sentence and see whether uh, there are any changes throughout the paragraph, or it just remain more or less these two. Okay, in terms of their meaning. So the first one is on paragraph 1. So looking at paragraph 1, you could see that that you can see a few emotions being quoted. She felt quite relaxed after the drive to the family house. After that, then she was both apprehensive and excited. Okay, so you can see that there's a variety of feelings here, right? So we will consider this to be mixed emotions. Next, for paragraph 2 and 3, we observe that she tried to put on a show of emotion to cover up the fact that she forgotten the keys. Right? And if you take a look at paragraph 3, there wasn't any emotion or anything related to that being mentioned, because she's just having her own inner thoughts that she wished that Kasim wasn't there and she wouldn't feel so stressed. So in a sense, the main idea of the emotion still comes from paragraph 2. And you could see that the subsequent few lines after the first sentence is talking about Kasim's reactions. So there isn't anything related to Alice. So the only thing that we will observe and take note of would be from the first sentence of paragraph 2. And this could tell us that she was trying to hide her feelings, because she's trying to she's trying to laugh, trying to make it seem that losing the keys isn't that serious after all. Now, looking at paragraph 4 and 5, we look at how Kasim just did his own stuff, right? And you can see the first paragraph already talk about something about irritation. She said that Kasim wasn't really interested to help her. He was just walking around and having time for himself. Then if you observe in paragraph 5, we see that she's very exasperated, which means that she's very irritated because Harriet arrived early, yet she just left the car there and did her own things. She walked around, right? So the main idea is here that there is increasing irritation. All right. So the answer will be growing impatience. That's the closest that we have. Now, the next one is paragraph 6. Paragraph 6 talks about how she was able to see her brother, and you could see that at the she recognized her brother's car and it was filled to the brim. And she said, "Oh, wow, you are prepared for the family gathering." So all these point to the fact that she was she was very excited about the event. You can even see at the start, at the last part, she say, "At last, the holiday could begin." So for this part, we would say that she was having a happy anticipation. All right. And with that, we have come to the end of our compre text tool, as well as our visual stimulus. Are there any questions? Please feel free to ask me anything with regards to secondary school English, and I'll answer them. All right. Okay, if there are no further questions, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon on our Writers at Work TikTok Live. I'm teacher Nathan, and hello Cat Lover 23. And if you'd like to learn more about Primary 5 and Primary 6 English with me, do log on at 2:30 p.m. where I'll be sharing more tips and tricks with you after we go through our MGS paper from 2023. All right. And if you are interested to find out more about programs and the TikTok schedule, do check the link in bio where more information can be found there. All right. So I'll just leave the chat on for a few more moments. So if you have any last minute questions, you can just pop a question and I'll answer. If not, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, and I hope to see you at 2:30 p.m. Bye bye.